Second update. Am I the a-hole for giving crappy Christmas gifts and ruining my marriage? For the first part of this story, click the card above or the link in the description. To recap, in my first post, my husband's family uninvited me from Christmas. My husband still left and made me celebrate Christmas alone, so I organized crappy gifts as a final bird flip. In the first update, I moved out, and my underemployed soon-to-be ex and his family still expected me to pay rent on the apartment in my in-laws' names. Now for the second update. So, the people who commented that my soon-to-be former in-laws were probably charging my soon-to-be ex and me more than the amount on the lease? You called it. And we wouldn't have found out if they weren't so entitled and determined to hurt me. They got a cousin, who happens to be a lawyer, to send me a letter demanding I pay the entirety of the remainder of the lease, or they will file suit and force me to pay it. Clearly a scare tactic. So, my lawyer sent a formal request to their lawyer for a copy of the lease, which I've never seen, and a copy of their written agreement with us as sublessees, which doesn't exist. They sent the lease and insisted the sublease agreement was a verbal contract. Not only is subleasing explicitly prohibited, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law had been charging us an extra $200 each month. So, we've notified the landlord that I've been living there with my soon-to-be ex, and that the in-laws were living in their own house throughout the duration of the lease. We also sent copies of my driver's license with the address and over 2 years of bank and credit card statements with the address listed. They were served with a 30-day eviction notice yesterday, which I know about because mother-in-law left a voicemail about me kicking my soon-to-be ex out of his home, and that she now drives with a baseball bat in her car and will be keeping an eye out for me. Obviously, my lawyer's expertise is in family law, and this was out of her purview, so she referred me to a colleague who focuses on real estate law. We met today to devise a battle plan, and I am now suing my mother-in-law and father-in-law for all the money I can prove I transferred for rent for the entirety of my residency there, since the apartment was technically not a legal rental, as they couldn't sublease. No clean hands to rent to us and then sue me. He's not sure how a judge will buy it, and it's way beyond my state civil compensation limit, but he's confident that it will scare them and leave them open to settling for just returning the additional $200 from each payment, which I think is fair, because I did live there with my soon-to-be ex, so I don't think it's right to get all the rent money back. I'm an adult, and adults pay rent, and I don't want them to have the satisfaction of saying I'm using the divorce as a windfall. On the soon-to-be ex front, there's no news there. We will likely need to go to family court for a separation order, since he won't agree to the financial details of the separation agreement my lawyer has drafted. My state requires a 1-year separation period before a divorce can be finalized, so this is going to be a long process. A few people asked why he did what he did, and if he's offered any kind of explanation or justification. We haven't really talked since he was served. I don't know if he just fell out of love but kept me around because I was financially convenient, or if the mask finally lifted, or if being so close to his family gave them more opportunities to manipulate him. I don't know and I don't care. I don't need closure. I need them all gone. Looking back, making promises during couples counseling and slowly regressing back is enough closure. Knowing he allowed his family to treat me like crap for so long is closure. That final betrayal at Christmas is closure. My focus isn't on figuring it out. It's on making sure I'm happy. Now for the top comments. Keep their calls and text messages as evidence for a protective order. Absolutely. She's going to regret it because she works for the school district and a restraining order won't let her teach. I don't know, and I don't care. I don't need closure. I need them all gone. And that's how you know you're starting to heal. Too many people let toxic exes back into their lives in the name of closure. The truth is that, when someone hurts you like that, it's not your job to figure out the why. What matters is that they did, and you need to leave to protect yourself. You're absolutely amazing. Thank you. Honestly, I feel like a new person. I feel like someone who's been ill and finally able to go outside and breathe fresh air. Don't forget to investigate suing for return of money invested in his business. It was premarital asset and exempt from prenup. Worth a shot to see if you can recover some, if not all of that wasted savings. I had never thought of this. I'll bring it up when I meet with my lawyer next. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my mother-in-law out of our house after she refused to call our son by his name? My husband, 34 male, and I, 31 female, recently had our first child, a son we named Elijah. We put a lot of thought into his name. We loved the meaning, and it just felt right. My mother-in-law, 62 female, had no strong opinions about it at first. She didn't gush over it, but she also didn't object. Or so we thought. The first time she met Elijah at the hospital, she looked at him and said, "Oh, little David, you're so perfect." I thought I misheard her, so I ignored it, but then she said it again. I asked her, "Who's David?" And she just smiled and said, "Oh, it just suits him better." I was too exhausted from labor to argue, but over the next few weeks, she kept calling him David, texting us things like, "How's my little David doing today?" or "Give David a kiss for me." I told her firmly that his name is Elijah. She laughed and said, "Oh, I know, but I think he just feels like a David." Neither my husband nor I know anyone named David. It's not a family name. There's no sentimental reason behind it. It's just a completely random name she decided to call my child, despite us telling her not to. At first we tried to let it go, hoping she'd stop if we ignored it, but it only got worse. When we FaceTimed her, she'd coo at him saying, "Grandma loves you, David." She even started knitting a baby blanket with the name David embroidered on it. The final straw was when she came over for a family dinner and kept referring to him as David in front of everyone. My sister-in-law asked, "Wait, why do you keep calling him David?" And mother-in-law just laughed and said, "Because that's his name to me." That's when I lost it. I said, "No, his name is Elijah, and if you can't respect that, you don't need to be here." She rolled her eyes and tried to wave me off, but I wasn't having it. I told her to leave. She looked shocked, but she left without much of a fight. Now my husband is upset with me. He agrees that his mom was being weird and disrespectful, but he thinks kicking her out was too extreme and that I should have just let it go. Mother-in-law is now playing the victim, telling everyone that I'm keeping her grandson from her over a harmless nickname. Some think I overreacted. Others agree that her behavior was bizarre. I don't know. Was I really in the wrong for putting my foot down? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Only call your husband by the wrong name for a week and see how he likes it. Right? He has always been a bit of a mama's boy, so him taking her side doesn't surprise me, but this is still our son we're talking about. Not the a-hole. This is a very weird behavior, and your feelings are valid. I also find it odd that your husband thinks you overreacted, but you literally just told her to use the correct name or to leave. It sounds like she made her choice, and now she's upset with you. It really is, and I'm still wondering who the heck David is or why she chose that name. As for my husband, he's always had a hard time going against his mom in anything. Ask her if David was an affair partner and your husband's real father. You are not the a-hole. It's not just the name, but the constant brushing you off when corrected. And then the eye roll. She needed something shocking. You need to think of a name other than Grandma. Elijah has a grandma. David doesn't. If she calls him David, actively call her by her first name or Mrs. Blank. Next story. Am I the a-hole if I'm upset that my husband mentioned getting a paternity test? My 31 female, husband 32 male, just mentioned that he's keen on getting a paternity test for our 3-week-old baby girl. His reasoning is that our daughter has darker hair than him, he has brown hair and I'm white blonde. I'm a little confused as she hardly has any bloody hair, and this just feels like he's accusing me of infidelity. I actually thought he was joking initially. The conversation went as follows. He said, "Her hair is really dark." So I said, "Yeah, it is, even though it isn't darker than his." He then mentioned getting the test. It was completely out of the blue. I initially said that he should go for it, as I wasn't thinking. But now that I've had some time to reflect, I'm really not happy about it. If he wants to get the test, fine by me, but it just feels like he doesn't trust me. Am I overthinking this? He has no reason to think like this. He even went as far as to say if she wasn't mine biologically, she'd still be my girl. That statement just ticked me off, and I've said nothing to him since. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before the mini update. This just feels like he's accusing me of infidelity. That's because he is. If he believed the baby was switched at birth, he'd use his freaking words and say that. Which is what annoys me the most. 18 months ago, I quit my job and moved to a different country for him to further his career. I've given him a second beautiful girl, and he says this crap. Tell him he can have his paternity test if he hands you his phone and passwords right that moment. If he wants to doubt your fidelity, you owe it to yourself to check his messages/emails/apps to ensure he isn't projecting. Yeah, my first thought was this guy might be projecting his own infidelity. Not the a-hole. Your husband is though. All of my children were born with loads of jet black hair. Neither their father nor I have black hair. 2 of my children now have light brown hair, and 2 are blonde. There's absolutely no doubt at all that my husband is the father of my children, as they share very obvious genetic traits. However, if I'd been asked for a paternity test for any of my children, he'd have been shown the door. That's a massive level of distrust. She's only 3 weeks old, but she looks so like him. It's uncanny. Clearly not everything is black and white with genetics, but he fails to see this. When our second child looked vastly different from our first, my husband doubted the hospital staff. He insisted for weeks that the hospital had switched our baby with someone else's. He never once accused me of cheating. I am only saying this to show how that's where his mind is, and the doubting of looks doesn't cause someone to automatically jump to cheating conclusions. My red-headed parents were also convinced of this, because I was born with jet black hair and brown eyes. Weirdly though, all my hair fell out after a few weeks and grew back red. But yeah, no accusations of cheating there either. Now for the mini update. Thanks for all the comments and advice. There seem to be some common responses, so I thought I'd just reply to them here. I'm more than happy for him to get the test, but as most have mentioned, that would confirm his lack of trust in me, his wife, and I don't think I could overlook that. I think I'll seek some counseling to discuss this issue further. I'll be inviting him to join me. Some mentioned that our daughter might have been swapped at birth and that the test would benefit us both. I can assure all of these commentators that she didn't leave my side once throughout our hospital stay. From her entrance into the world to her leaving the hospital with us, I'm very happy that she's our little one. Most people mentioned projection on his part. I must admit I hadn't thought about this. I'm almost certain that this isn't the case, but I will discuss my fears/concerns with him, as this is now at the forefront of my mind. I will update accordingly. Thank you all. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my children's stepmother to buzz off? I, 30, dated Hank, 33, for 4.5 years, and we had 2 kids together, who are now 8 and 6. We broke up when our kids were 2 months and 21 months old. Within a month, Hank was back with his ex, Michelle, 33. Michelle was his high school sweetheart and best friends with one of Hank's sisters. Hank's family had been sad when they broke up and name-dropped Michelle a lot while I was with him. Sometimes, they even invited her over when we were there. I was so dumb to stay with him, but I really loved him. When Hank and Michelle got back together, Hank was very hostile toward me. Within 5 months, they were engaged, and they wanted me to sign over my rights to the kids so Michelle could adopt them, and they could be raised as their children. Michelle told me nobody liked that they were mine, and that they would never be accepted into the wider family if I was still in the picture. Hank also claimed that it was better for the kids to have a stable home and to be accepted. But like I pointed out, once he and Michelle had kids, would they really be treated like theirs, even if I did entertain the idea, which I never would? They said yes, but I never believed them, especially Michelle. Unfortunately, my kids are treated differently because they're mine. For a while, there was an effort made to alienate them. Hank lost some parenting time with them for 16 months. But once the alienation was addressed in parenting classes and therapy, the judge decided it would be okay to give him back shared custody. I have documented proof that my kids are treated as lesser and get treated badly by Hank's family and by Michelle, but custody is still 50-50, and I can't get more time with them. The kids are so sad going to their dads. I have them in therapy, and the therapist has been wonderful, even advocating for me to have more custody. but the judge still said that 50-50 was in their best interest. Hank has been really difficult to communicate with, and one of our kids has a medical condition that requires frequent hospital and doctor appointments, as well as a learning disability that requires cooperation. I also have Michelle sending me photos of Hank's family gatherings where my kids are left out. I wanted to block her, but I was told not to, because if my kids are left with her while Hank is working and something happens, it wouldn't look good if I missed that kind of message. So I save everything but don't reply. She has sent 2 medical updates before, so I see why it wouldn't look good in the judge's eyes. But it's hard to receive those messages. And yes, they were used in court and still didn't change anything. I try to avoid Hank, Michelle, and Hank's family as much as possible. But a few weeks ago, Hank told me he wanted a 16-week break from child support, which he pays because he makes significantly more than I do, because they were saving for a family Disney trip for him, Michelle, and their 2 little ones. I refused to let non-payments go, which they didn't like, clearly. Michelle then attempted to fight me on this by showing up at my house while the kids were at school, which interrupted me while I was working. She was ready to fight, yelling about how selfish I am and how I shouldn't be getting any support for the kids when they made a good offer to let her raise them. She had more to say, but I just told her to buzz off and shut the door in her face. Michelle and Hank have been relentless in texting me since. I spoke to my lawyer, who said I didn't have anything to worry about regarding their threats of court. I said nothing in front of the kids, and she showed up at my house to yell at me. I also have proof of her behaving far worse and saying far worse to me. So I'm not worried. But am I the a-hole for saying buzz off to her instead of just shutting the door in her face? I feel like you're not the a-hole for telling Michelle to buzz off, given the context of her showing up at your house uninvited, yelling at you, and trying to bully you into agreeing to something unreasonable. You've been dealing with years of hostility, alienation attempts, and mistreatment of your kids, and it's understandable that you reached a breaking point. While it might have been more diplomatic to just shut the door, your reaction was a human response to being provoked and harassed. Michelle and Hank's behavior has been consistently toxic, and you're doing your best to protect your kids and maintain boundaries in a very difficult situation. I wish I could do more to keep my kids safe from this. But other than documenting and trying to provide them with more support, I have run out of options. My kids don't deserve the treatment they keep getting from the people who should love and care for them. Oh my gosh, not the a-hole. I'm actually appalled that you're not doing more to protect your children. You literally get sent pictures of them being isolated and neglected. To me, this looks like emotional abuse. Please do more. Can you not take the non-payments to court or report them for harassment? If someone shows up trying to fight you, don't engage. Call the police. Having a police report on your side will always help. I have fought for my kids. I've been in court over this with proof, and it does nothing. I made a call to the non-emergency CPS line, but they said that wouldn't open a CPS investigation because they have food, clothes, go to school, and don't get beaten. The non-payment hasn't happened as of yet. He asked, but I said no. And if he stops, he knows I will report it.